Hi, hello, and welcome to Vertex of Abundance. My name is Serene Priestess Gorgeous. I'll be your oracle today. I'm here to perform the weekly tarot buffet for November 2018. The dates we are covering is November 3rd through the 9th. And let's go ahead and talk about it here. First of all, there'll be a new moon. By the way, this is for the tropical chart, and we're still under ratchet protocols. It's kind of clunkety, energies flowing out as blockages, tech problems, camera problems, la-di-da, la-di-da. So we're just gonna pick it up and keep it moving. You know, if you could extend some grace and forgiveness for the kind of ratchet protocols that we're under, it'll improve rather quickly. Okay, so one more thing, we're under the Lunar Lounge and the weekly tarot buffet, as well as any oracle counselorship that's geared towards the public. It's always under the tropical chart, so the Western chart. So this will be according to the astrology traditions that you're aware of. Typically it's that way without the face. When we're talking about the face, I'll be doing other things, but let's get in here. Okay, so on the 7th, there's a new moon in Scorpio. So understand that between the new moon and the full moon, it's not a good time to have surgery, especially during like a feminine sign. It's better to plant seeds, and I mean planting seeds on all types of ways and means and measures. So it could be going to the garden, planting, things that can blossom during the winter, unless you have a greenhouse. Depending on where you are in the world, that may be the exact opposite, meaning you can still plant, but you might have excess heat versus excess moisture and cold. Now, Scorpio rules the genitals and the anus and the urethra and the prostate. So be careful, because surgery can happen in multiple different ways, not just a medical incision type of surgery, cutting, because Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto. So that is cutting. 8th house is surgeries, things that go on behind the veil. So exploratory surgery, digging things up, whether it's digging through the body with a knife or a needle, or, and I'm gonna go there, or digging through the garden. So you may have skeletons come out of the closet. And this is general. You may also have, there's an increased risk for venereal disease. Okay, and I'm saying, men and women can catch VD. I just want to say it. STDs as well. I'm not talking about sexually transmitted infections. STIs, I'm talking about sexually transmitted demons. Now, sex is not always coitus, intermingling the fluids. It can just be two opposing forces coming together to arrive at a harmony, to begin to come unto the other, to know one another. So even if you have an enemy and you're forced to sit in the same room, a coworker that you don't like, you're forced to sit in the same meeting, in the same collaboration session, you're forced on a project together, these things will come to the surface. I do want to say that. Now, we also have between the 3rd and the 9th, Jupiter is going to ingress on the 8th into Sagittarius. All right. Mercury on the 1st also went into, it retrograded, it stationed where it's going to be the shadow period. So it's not going into retrograde until the 17th. And I didn't mention this last week for the actual time period. So yesterday, we hit the degree in the sky that Mercury is going to go retrograde in. So you're already, the eyes are on you. Spiritual eyes are on you. People are going to be thinking about what is it that you're thinking? How is it that you think? Where are these ideas coming from? And it's going to be ooga booga. Let me tell you, because people are going to be rather myopic, or they're going to have a need to be myopic, and they're not going to be given the opportunity to do so. So there will be feelings about it. People are going to be up in their feelings about it because of what they're deciding to think, however. And what they're deciding to think is going to be rather toxic, because they're going to want to stay small, and they're not going to allow for the bigger, broader, better. They're not going to really be going with the flow to allow for expansions to happen. These expansions are bringing healings to the surface. So, there's the Mercury and the Jupiter talk. Now, another thing is that Uranus has been retrograde for a little while, but Uranus actually is going to leave Taurus and go into Aries. Okay, so that's going to happen on the 6th of this week. And then Between the 5th and the 6th, just an overall blanket statement. I'll talk about it in the individual daily epiphany, but for the weekly buffet here, we're going to have Sun trining Neptune on the 5th and the 6th. So when the Sun trines Neptune, a lot of people want to think that it's going to be ooga booga, but it's not my opinion. My opinion of Sun trining Neptune is actually rather positive. What it is you're going to see your soul. You're going to experience your soul. You're going to take action from the soul. The soul will be in a positive, harmonic energy flow. Now, the sun rules your actions, your conscious, versus the moon, your reactions, your subconscious. So again, sun, actions, consciousness. It is also the place where you sit in a rulership to your life. So it's kind of the central point, the 0 point, the point of emanation, the point of serene consciousness. Now, in addition, Neptune is the soul versus Uranus is the spirit, okay? So it is the, some people say the underworld and all that other stuff. It's not my opinion. But it does deal with Vishnu, and Vishnu is going to the depths. It is the part that preserves. So you need a foundation, something to preserve your actions, something to build your actions on top of. So it would talk about deep and depths, but it would talk about things where you can go into illusion. And illusion isn't always like escapism. Oftentimes it is. It can also be hedonism. Hedonism is one form of illusion, because remember, human is the marriage of spirit and flesh. So God is spirit and the devil is flesh, or mortality, or the beast meaning the body, the DNA, the 666, 6 protons, electrons, neutrons, carbon beings, melanated beings. Whether you're melanin dominant, recessive, we're all in the same category there, because humanity is the colors of man, okay? And man is the apex of the animal kingdom, doesn't have the divine consciousness like a lion would, but doesn't always have the devilish consciousness like we could say a snake or a beast would either. So that might have been a strong download. I'm going to continue. So when the sun is trining Neptune, really there's going to be, you're always going to think, always is a strong word, but I'm going to repeat it. You're often going to think from a divine place, or if you are dishonoring, diluting, diminishing, distorting, disowning your divinity, thinking that only what you can see is God, or only in the now is God, or that you are not a divine being in a human form. If you want to throw all those concepts and ideas away, then it would be illusion, lies, fantasy, getting swept away in other people's emotions. It would be malarkey, as you would call it. So when it's not that is when you take into account, take into effect that we all come from the goddess, and to her we are reborn like a drop of rain falling to the ocean, which means that we are a moment in time of an infinite divine source. Past, present, and future exist in the same place at the same time. And as we embody ourselves here in the physical, and embody means that we are a spiritual light, a divine ray of light animating a vessel. The vessel happens to be part of the animal kingdom. We'll call ourselves humans, meaning a hue of a man. And the hue that you take on, would mean which part of the divine you emanate from. So if you're more Caucasoid, there's nothing wrong with that. It just means you're more Venusian. If you're more melanated or dark or African based, it would mean that you're more Saturnian. Asians tend to be more Jupiterian. Native Americans tend to be more Mars. And Mercury actually embodies all of humanity. It literally is the ability to choose which hue of man you take on. So Mercury represents the archetype of humanity. And by the way, Mercury is the lower emanation of Uranus, but the form that Neptune takes on in the physical is Mercury. The lower form of Neptune is Venus. It talks about the higher love, right? That's the archetype that would be visibly present. So the more loving you are, the more able you are to unite, to relate, to have compassion towards humanity. That's the goddess aspect of Neptune. Okay, so that's the lower emanation. But the form that Neptune would take on in the physical is more mercurial. So that would mean life force itself, humanity itself. Now, Mercury, the concept and idea of that, not the archetype, but the concept and idea, there's a difference. I'll talk about it in the mystery school. Check the show notes for more information. Would be humanity, okay? So it's unconditional love and the oneness vibration. Love, truth. Mercury is both Venus and Mars combined, just like Jupiter is the sun and the moon combined, okay? I've said enough. I'm gonna get into these messages here. So let's do flowers for beloved. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so this is the collective. I heard the lie we've been told. Okay. And again, this is the 3rd through the 9th. You know, when I talk about race and I talk about skin color, what I'm talking about is collective karma. You really can't help how you fall out of the womb. I'm thoroughly aware of that. And you know, in 2018, there's a lot of hybridization, and hybridization can be both negative and positive. But think about the rainbow itself. Those are the humanity, the different skin tones. And then there's also the rainbow bridge, which is the merging, the hybridization, the marrying of the sex of it. Sex is to merge, for two to become one, to become a three. 3 is the actual plurality. 2 is the actual duality, the being split and divided, and that's the polarization of. So in the higher realms, there is polarity, but there's no duality. In the lower realms, there's very little polarity, and there is mostly duality. 3rd dimension is the lower realms, and Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Sun, Moon, they have to deal with duality more. And then Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, Saturn, they have to deal with polarity more. So think about politics, polarity, police, polarity, interpol, polarity, okay, polarize. I'm just gonna put that out there and keep it moving. So knocking at the door here, we have this, the Son of Water. It's the Prince of Cups here in the Thoth deck. In the Thoth deck, the knights are the kings and the princes are the sons, the lower, the typical knight in the Rider-Waite. So this is actions, movement, orders, directions, comings and goings, dealing with the business and I'm going to say the emotional body, but also the astral realm. And believe it or not, Earth is on water. Water is not on Earth. Water came before Earth. Okay, so this is what's knocking on the door. And firstly, it's saying that we're here because of the collective. And I would find that true, to be true. My findings are that we need to take actions from the heart, actions of love. We also need to be aware of Scorpio risings, water rising signs, or people with their Mars in a water sign. And let me just check really quickly where Mars is this week. Mars is in Aquarius and it's 21 degrees. So it's going to stay there for a minute. We won't be having it in a water sign. So this would be water risings. All the nights are talk about your rising sign. So this would be, typically this is Scorpio, but it would be somebody with the rising sign in Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces. So that means that these people are going to emote. You know, energy, emotion. They're going to affect your astral body. They're going to affect your causal body. Movement will be coming from the causal body, not the physical body this week. And it's going to affect us in, and why we're here is the soul group, okay? So this is Mercury. It's the sacred union of divine opposites. So divine masculine, divine feminine, divine mother, divine father, okay? In the physical, in one form. It's the collective, the fractalized being, the compound being. And that's why we're already here. And it's because the call to arms is to drive life forward according to actions on the other side of the moon. So another thing about the king or any of the cup signs, it's like the moon below to earth instead of the swords being above the moon towards the sun. Okay. So we're going to be in 2 nights means a call to arms. This is literally get out and drive life forward. Okay. And it's saying here that this week there's going to be movement. There's going to be movement on 2 fronts: the emotional body, the mental body, the 4th dimension, the 5th dimension. And it's going to all be centered around the collective, spiritual technology in the collective, and pharaonic lines. So the Pope, chosen ones, the 144,000, the 12 tribes, the Sphinx, the Pharaoh, etc. Now, really, this is all going down because we are preparing to have the goddess show herself to us. So that could be the revelation, that could be the apocalypse, that could be judgment day, that could be the rapture. And it is because the healing that's going on right now for the collective is according to our emotional body. So this always reminds me of the Matrix, waking up from the Matrix, deciding to take the red pill versus the blue pill, no longer believing the lies that you've been told, the conditioning, the program that you've encountered, that you've experienced. And to a more esoteric degree, it would talk about where you are yearning, conjuring up, where you might be hurting and wishing and praying, yearning for some wounding from the past, or where you could be finally leaving it, or you could be now finally negotiating from that place. Now, there's no wisdom from this wounding. So I think this week is when the wounding leaves us and we begin to become open and receptive to the wisdom that is on the way from the recollection of the wounding we've recently experienced. So I would sense here, in my professional judgment, I'm sensing that in the last week or two, for some of you last month, especially the unawakened ones, it takes you a lot longer to get the lesson. You're welcome. Cry about it if you need to. I ain't here for that. You would have been taking an inventory, listing all the wounding, hurting, all the betrayal. And I would say be mindful of sitting in all of that. Let the energy come to you and deliver the message and let it leave. Okay. If you're still feeling something, then it's because you've mixed that emotion with a thought. That's when an emotion becomes a feeling, when you add in a thought, meaning energy, emotion plus beliefs and thoughts equal feelings. Feelings are always, 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 always after the fact. As simple as somebody touches your skin, you feel it after it happens. Intuition would tell you before it gets there. Energy, emotion, the emotion is when it's actually happening in the present. The feeling is when it's happened in the past. The thought or anticipation of it is when it's happening in the future. So this Queen of Cups always says, like, you're in the present looking towards the past. You're not in the past looking towards the future, typically Pentacles. You're not in the present looking towards the future, which is typically Wands and Swords. You are in the present looking towards the past. That's the Cups. Now, you're going to need to use this energy to come into self-worth and value, to come into knowledge of the goddess, to come into knowledge of your ancestors or the soul group. But this is your receptivity towards with this Queen of Cups. So that would mean, so what we're doing already is this Empress. So that would mean we're nurturing things into the physical through our creative nature, our creativity, our unity, aligning and negotiating compromises, shared emotional needs. That's another thing for Scorpio. Scorpio, 8th house is shared emotional needs. And also nurturing things into the physical through gestation. So sitting in the consciousness of, and I'm hearing a harp. So pulling the strings of the timeline. Let me just show you this death card. I haven't even got here yet. So I'm hearing the harp. So it would be manipulating, navigating throughout the timeline. So it's kind of like reframing, a lot of reframing. Oh, I have this hurt feeling. Okay, reframe. This is not the day I got broken up with. This is the day I got back to personal power. This is the day I learned the truth of who I am. This is the day I learned the truth of who this person was and what cause they were playing in my environment. Example, okay? So I'm hearing a harp, and that always means to me picking and choosing what you decide to allow to press upon you. Like I said, there's a difference between an emotion and a feeling. Emotions come at you as a wave of energy that hits you, and your astral body is what registers that, and then when you mix your mental body with it, it becomes a feeling. And your feelings let you know how you are perceiving the reality that you have. Okay, that really it's your emotions. Your emotions let you know the energy emotion. They allow you to know if your values are getting met. What you're wanting, hoping, wishing, praying, thinking, and needing in the moment. What do you need? What are your needs? What are you feeling, thinking, needing in the moment? Now, that is what your feelings let you know. Your feelings let you know how you're choosing to perceive your reality. Your thoughts tell you what reality you are creating. But to be honest, your thoughts are a derivative of your beliefs. So your beliefs is how you can change what you're choosing to create. And the emotion will let you know how it is you are perceiving your reality. So the beliefs create the reality, the emotions measure the reality. Okay. Now, when you perceive this reality that you're in, and I got to go through this because it literally is spiritual technology, and that's it. You know, the archetype of the Hierophant is Taurus, the collective, building solid, sustainable foundations, not just building the foundation, but taking something that's been built and institutionalizing it, sustaining it over the long term, making it generational. Furthermore, it's talking about the superconscious, the collective mind. So knocking at the door, we're navigating through the emotional body, through the causal body of the astral, and it's according to the collective. It can also be ancestors. We're required to drive life forward according to intellect, reason, and communication. Check our beliefs, check our thoughts, okay? Because this is all about self-worth and value. The self-worth and value is going to be coming again from the emotional body. Okay, so we're not just going to be driving life forward emotionally, it's going to be through the emotional body, because what knocks at the door is our emotions. The Knight of Cups is about manipulating emotions, navigating through emotions. The Page of Cups would be about experiencing the emotion. Okay, and then the Queen is about working through the field of emotions. It's about you know how to navigate the world of emotions. That's what the Queen of Cups means. And it's because we're needing to have awareness of the cycle, awareness of the rainbow waters and how it matriculates and manipulates and manifests down here. Okay, so the way forward is to come into emotional maturity, to pick and choose what to leave behind. So like I said, we would have already figured out last week that things weren't working out, that some things were great, some things weren't, and we didn't need to care about it. We just needed to mitigate the circumstances. And that would mean the gift to give yourself is to allow for death and renewal, changes, comings and goings. Okay, release. So I didn't do the technical read. Those in the mystery school, I'll teach you about this. It's called the storybook spread. And it's the gorgeous storybook. We use the major and minor in a very specific format. So I did the astrology, I did the tarot. We're gonna go ahead and just wrap it up here. There's so much more I want to say, but it'll come out in the daily epiphanies. Okay, I was a little late recording the daily epiphany today. I literally fell asleep at the divination table. I don't know. I just woke up an hour after I was supposed to be uploading the videos. And I went deep into divination to figure out if there was interference or attacks or whatever. I'm not going to release my findings. That's private. But you'll hear it in the daily epiphanies. Daily epiphanies. I'll speak to what else I'm picking up. I do want to note that last week we had the King and the Queen of Wands out, and this week we have the Knight and the Queen of Cups out. So this week we make changes from the discovery of last week. It's like we traveled to the higher self last week to figure out what was going on, to predict, to envision, to call upon. And if we had those visions, if we had the belief that we were worthy of those experiences, now we're gonna see, when you take a belief and you match it with a burning desire, it literally steps into the physical. It's very much the patterning. I'll talk about the patterning real quick before I wrap up. The pattern last week was the king and queen. The pattern this week is the queen and the page, and not the page, the bushkiri, the knight. And it's funny because all the pages represent Venus in that sign. We have Venus out, and then the pages can also be seen in the high priestess. We have that out here as well. So there's this kind of merge of the soul's consciousness stepping into the physical. I think we're going to get a visit from the goddess. Ago, Giwakabodika. I feel like we're going to have, you know, Lalita, Lakshmi Ma, Saraswati as well. We can have a little bit of Kali Devi, but it would be about release. And to be honest, the Kali aspect that's manifesting here would be not caring when things walk away from your life. I think we've already processed that things need to go. We've already had the tribulations, the fear, the shock and awe of the release. And now the release is here, so we're not going to be so surprised when it happens. It's been an honor and pleasure to serve you. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to do so. Until we meet again, until we read again, Namaste, Dandavat, and Ashe. Please check the show notes. There's extra information there for you. And I did not set the tablet for this week's tableau, so let me do that right now. Okay, so this week's weekly epiphany. Okay, we're waiting for the database to catch up. Okay, so this week's weekly epiphany will be number 60. Well, there we go. That's Uranus right there. So we have the weekly tarot buffet, and it's the 3rd through the 9th November 2018. Okay, so and then the simulation that I just ran here is going to be number 145. Okay. Talk to you soon. Namaste, Dandavat, and Ashe. That simulation and the tableau is both in the show notes under Lodge Tableaus and Reading Simulator. Take good care.